Hello, denizens of the internet. Many of you have been asking me, when is my next random brain fart tech news post? Well, I don't know. There just hasn't been enough tech news to make fun of. But the reaction to my last video about Apple's Mac Pro case faux pas that forced users to remove all plugs from the back of a Mac Pro when opening the case was pretty overwhelming. Lots of you people disagreed and said I was stupid, and many others agreed that it was an egregious design flaw. So I'm going to respond to a sampling of comments that I would say were representative. Shihayam, Shahai, I think that's how you pronounce it, wrote, "This video should be right next to the definition of nitpicking." Yes, of course I agree. All the famous tech tubers are reviewing or have reviewed actual Mac Pros. Not only do I not have one, I'm left with complaining about this metal isthmus at the bottom. Am I undone? No! I will press on because this is my windmill and Juancho is my Sancho Panza. Ian McGrew wrote, "Can you imagine the liability Apple would face if they didn't force you to pull the plug and someone electrocuted themselves? It would then be stated that the case was the most epic design failure in Apple's history." Ian, that's just silly. How many computers have been manufactured since the Apple II? How many people have been electrocuted? How many class action lawsuits have there been? None. Are you saying that Mac Pro users are extra stupid, more stupid than normal? If that's your argument, then I can't disagree. Yo Kraft wrote, "I don't see how a compromise favoring design requiring to unplug all the cables is a problem. You don't need power to the computer when you're opening it up to do upgrades. You're not going to open it up frequently just to show it off. And lastly, that extra piece of metal could turn out to be the supporting part of the case." Thank you, Yo Kraft, if that's your real name. First of all, the case is massive and heavy. If its entire structural integrity hinges on the tiny piece of metal at the back, at the bottom, then it's a terrible designed case. As far as opening up a case frequently, we're talking about two groups here: the personal computer user, like myself, and the corporate IT person. It's true that I don't open up my case often, but look at this mess of cables at the back. I don't want to unplug them all the time to add some RAM or a PCIe card. I also want to test the shit I put into my computer before putting the case back on. Apple's model of perfection would require me to add my RAM or GPU or capture card or whatever, put the case back on, plug everything in, turn it on, and if something is not working, I would have to unplug everything, reset the parts or exchange the part, and then put it all back together to test. While that would be super annoying for me, it would be sheer madness for a computer support person. Ryan Duff also wrote, "Not an issue. 90% of the time you should unplug everything to install anything. This is just Apple forcing good installation practices. Anyone talking about this really being an issue is really reaching for a reason to hate on Apple." No, Ryan, you are wrong. See previous response. And I don't hate on Apple. I'm right about Apple. Rod Furr wrote, "Very good observation." Thanks, Rod. Clearly you're a man of intelligence, as opposed to all the cretins I've had to deal with on this topic. Kevin Salas wrote, "A closer look reveals pogo pins under the power button that correspond to contacts on the housing. Removing the housing breaks the connection, cutting power to the machine according to iFixit." Yeah, and I had the amazing SnazzyLabs confirm that this was in fact correct. So Apple forces you to unplug the power and all the attachments while knowingly turning off all power by just opening the thing. Is this like double secret probation? James DeRuvo wrote, isn't it wise to remove the power cable before doing any work on the inside? if you want to. But since my Mac 2 days, all I ever did was shut down, pop the lid, add my stuff, boot it up, check to see if it's all working, and then put the lid back on. I've never had an issue. Some Macs let you replace the CPU, and then for sure I unplugged it, but all you unpluggers are insane flat earther conspiracy theorist Alex Jones watchers. You probably wear condoms while shopping. Andre Le Gris wrote, how many people on here start fiddling around inside their desktop case without unplugging the power first? Or do you folks just prefer to live on the edge of safety versus the fun of possibility frying expensive components with live flowing electricity? For God's sakes, Andre, you shut down your Mac. You take the lid off. It cuts the power. How much more freaking dead do you want your Mac to be? All right then, if the Mac Pro is resting, I'll wake him up. Hello, Mr. Mac. I've got a lovely fresh cuttlefish for you. Now that's what I call a dead Mac. Philip TM wrote, wow, you're an idiot. I tried to come up with a rebuttal to that, but I couldn't. And finally, Michael W. wrote, you're the Jeremy Clarkson of tech. Congrats on the review. 100% agree. Thank you, Michael. Couldn't agree more. But one final thing. I'd like to add in all of Apple's documentation, it screams to pull the plug when updating the innards. Fine. Just don't make me unplug all the other shit. So, there you have it, denizens. Hey, Wancho, when the last commenter remarked that I was the Jeremy Clarkson of tech, he didn't mean that I looked like Jeremy Clarkson, that I was as fat as him. Do you think? I mean, I know I've gained a little bit of weight, but, I'm not Jeremy Clarkson fat, am I? You're not answering, Wancho. Well, there you go, denizens of the internet. Till next time. So long.